Hello and thanks for joining us for Encore's weekly film show. Coming up, the French seaside town of Deauville rolls out the red carpet for the 43rd American Film Festival. Robert Pattinson, Woody Harrelson and Laura Dern are among the talent being honoured this year. France 24's film critic Lisa Nesselson is there to tell us about the highlights and the rest of the week's film news. Well, let's cross straight to the Normandy town of Deauville, where we can speak to Lisa Nesselson. Hello, Lisa.
Hello, Eve. I don't have a toothache. I'm just on a very, very windswept beach, which gives me new appreciation for all those brave soldiers waiting to be evacuated from Dunkirk.
Okay, well, the Deauville American Film Festival has been going for almost half a century. Tell us about this 10-day event that honours the world's biggest film industry.
Well, you know, there's a lot of places on the planet right now due to geopolitical events where you wouldn't raise your hand and say, hi, I'm American. But I feel very, very safe here because for 43 years, this has been a tip of the hat from France to American films, and American films of all kinds, from small budget independents to big studio fare. We had a very gala opening evening with a movie called American Made, which is one of those true stories about Americans that only Americans seem to get themselves into situations like this, starring Tom Cruise. And, you know, we say things about how women look on screen, so I think it's okay to say I'm happy to see that Tom looks like a real person again, because in The Mummy, his previous film, he looked a little mummified. Here he plays Barry Seal, a guy who's a commercial airline pilot, and he finds out that his skills are needed by a vast group of people, including the CIA, other branches of the US government, Colombian drug dealers, and arms dealers. And all of that created a perfect storm that turned into Iran-Contra and more money than you could possibly launder all the livelong day. I believe we have a clip. Let's take a look.
Aerostar, we are ordering you to land immediately.
All right. Let's land.
I repeat, we are ordering you to land immediately. What the?
We saw American Made and with Tom Cruise. There are 14 films in the competition. Any you particularly liked?
Well, this has been a very good competition this year. There's also excellent documentaries, and then they do premieres of movies that'll be coming out the rest of the year here in France. One that's really stuck with me is called Beach Rats. And you know, covering film, which I've done for decades, is always a lesson, because you read the little blurbs just like everybody else and you say, oh, it's about a young man thinking about his sexuality in Brooklyn. And you think, oh, okay. Actually, the great thing about cinema is that the blurbs don't begin to tell you about the beauty and the intensity of a film. This is the story of a young man who is, in fact, questioning his sexuality. There's nothing remotely effeminate about him. He's got the kind of body and the kind of dreamy looks that appeal to men and women alike. And in the olden days, if you wanted to experiment with having sex with other men, if you were a man, you'd go someplace and cruise. You'd walk back and forth in person. But now, of course, with the internet, you can put pictures of yourself online, and you can hook up with men over the internet and agree to meet up in person. And that's what our protagonist does. You would never, ever dream that this movie was directed by a woman who wrote and directed it. It has incredible sensuality, and it's very, very affecting. There's a lot of movies now about questioning one's gender identity, one's sexual preferences, and this one has really stuck with me. Let's take a look at Beach Rats.
Where were you last night?
I was out.
I heard you come home at 5 in the morning. With who? Where did you two meet?
On the boardwalk, under the fireworks.
Yo, how'd it go with that girl?
Booty, big. You want to take a walk on the beach?
And there we saw beach rats. Well, every year, Lisa, Deauville pays tribute to big talents. In the past, there's been Jessica Chastain, Orlando Bloom, and Keanu Reeves. Who's there this year?
Well, this year, opening night, they did a tribute to the wonderful Laura Dern, who, of course, is a very talented actress. And whether you believe that heredity has a hand in that or not, her parents are Bruce Dern and Diane Ladd. She grew up with people like Alfred Hitchcock over to have sandwiches on a Saturday afternoon. She is, of course, indelibly linked with the strange, strange movies of David Lynch. And she's an incredibly gracious woman who, you know, like so many actors, thinks she's just hitting her stride, closer to 50 than 40, and that's a wonderful development. We also had Robert Pattinson, who last time I checked isn't strictly American, but he's very good at playing Americans, and he's been known to date Americans, so I guess that qualifies. As you can imagine, there was pandemonium here. And the wonderful, wonderful Jeff Goldblum, who is a consummate showman who started decades ago and couldn't say enough good things about his wife and their two small children. She actually is an acrobat and an Olympian, and she doubled Rihanna's dance moves in Luc Besson's Valerian.
OK, well, moving on now from the lovely setting of Deauville to a release out in France this week. It just won several prizes at the Angoulême Festival, and I know you're a fan. Tell us about Insyriated.
Insyriated is a just about perfect movie. It's not easy to watch. It's devastatingly well done, and it takes place 24 hours in the life of a family who are the last remaining tenants in an apartment building in a city in Syria. And they are being urged to leave, but the woman, the matriarch, magnificently played by the Palestinian actress Hayam Abbas, her husband told her to stay put. They have kindly taken in a young couple who were also in the building, and at the very beginning we see that they have plans to somehow get out of the country. This is the big day, but as in any good movie where you put your characters through hell, this happens on a regular basis, and you have the tense feeling in your bones that you are in this situation with them. They have no running water. You've got half a dozen people or more using toilet facilities, trying to ration food, wondering if the next bomb they hear in the distance is going to be the one that hits them. Here we see the family servant, amazingly still there, who sees someone leave the building and then sees something happen in the street. Let's take a look.
حرام شد اشتكي ما تبعلي مات قتلوهم بالجراج شو عم بتقولي؟
So this is also a film about ordinary people and about women. The actress Hayam Abbas has a very strong role, doesn't she?
She's always outstanding, but this, you could say, was tailor-made for her. Her anxiety, her strength, we feel it just radiate effortlessly from the screen, and that's part of what makes the movie so powerful. I doubt we would have had the same experience as viewers without her. But I have to say, you walk out of the theater incredibly grateful that you're not stuck in Syria or any other political hotspot. And it's a glorious, glorious movie, Insyriated.
Well, also out this week is a film that premiered in Cannes from the French filmmaker Bruno Dumont. It's called Jeanette, the childhood of Joan of Arc, which sounds serious, but apparently it's a musical.
Yes, well, Bruno Dumont is a very iconoclastic French director who has always gone absolutely his own way. His early films were brutal and strange and hard to watch. He's always used a lot of non-professional actors with the interesting faces that they have in the Flanders region that he's from. But in this one, he's branched out into musical comedy, but also very serious, because he's asking himself, going back to the 1400s, well, Joan of Arc, you know, an icon of the imagination, a historical figure. She was a child once, and this is a musical. You actually have her uncle is played by a man who I would describe as being the young Vladimir Putin learning to break dance. They're singing about God, where are you? Why haven't you come to save France? It's an extraordinarily odd experience.
OK then, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. The festival is on until the 10th of September, and we're going to leave you with a taster of Jeanette. Remember our website. We're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
Quand j'aurai fait lever le siège d'Orléans, quand j'aurai sauvé de sa prison Monsieur le Duc d'Orléans, je ferai sacrer Monsieur le Dauphin à Reims dans la belle cathédrale.
T'as dit tout ça lui-même, le bon Dieu?
Non, mon oncle, il m'a envoyé Monsieur Saint-Michel, Madame Sainte-Catherine et Madame Sainte-Marguerite pour me parler.
Savez donc laisser les bandes ravageuses enflamber nos maisons. Ma douce maison.